Am I the a-hole for not giving my family a percentage of the family business? 36 male. My grandfather owned a business that has been in our family for generations. Everyone in our family has worked or helped out at the business. About 10 years ago, Papa decided to retire. He was starting to have issues with his health. The business was failing due to lack of help and financial issues. My father and his siblings are older and mostly retired, so they didn't want to be bothered with it, nor did any of their children, including my siblings. Said it would be too much work to get it back up and running properly. I took part of my savings and gave it to my grandfather as a down payment. There were a lot of naysayers, including my parents, siblings, and some other relatives saying how I should have let my grandfather sell the business, thinking he would never see the rest of the money I owed him. Basically, saying they didn't believe in me. But within the first 3 years, I had paid him off completely, which made the business mine. The business is now quite successful. I have 3 locations, and thankfully my papa got to see the success before he passed. It went from being I couldn't do it, to them asking what I was doing with my money because they didn't see a difference in how my family and I lived. So there was all kind of ridiculous speculations. My wife and I have always been humbled about our blessings and lived below our means because there was a bigger picture for us. We lived in a 2-bedroom house raising our family for over 15 years, driving beater cars. I had a home built from the ground up on a nice piece of land I had acquired. COVID hit and stalled everything, but it was finished at the beginning of this year. For the 4th of July, I invited a family down to celebrate. A lot of my family hadn't seen the home in person, so once they did, the talk of how much I was making came into place. Our home is now a 6-bedroom beauty with 4.5 baths that sits on over 60 acres of land and a private lake. I didn't entertain a conversation, but then my father brought up the suggestion of me giving a percentage to the family, siblings and cousins. I told him I was. My family, as in my kids. My siblings have nice careers, but they also have a lot of debt. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Days ago, my mother mentions it again. I tell her that it wasn't up for discussion. She asks why wouldn't I want to share the success of my grandfather's business. I point out to her that while Papa may have started it, this was my business fair and square, and it's my choice and that it would never happen. Not liking my tone, she ran to my father and siblings, who have now been texting me like crazy, saying like I'm selfish, greedy, that I don't care about our family. I've ignored it, but I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong here. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Maybe for Christmas you can get them all copies of The Little Red Hen. This is a good one. Seriously, not the a-hole, but you may need to just cut them out of your life. Success makes the ones on the outside so thirsty. And by cut them off, I mean full stop. Cease and desist, blocking, and no contact. Nobody gets more viciously greedy than family. And great job in buying the business outright from your pop-pop and then getting back on its feet. That was 100% you and 0% them, so that's the only percentage they deserve. Not the a-hole. You bought the business from your grandpa with your own money. And all the money and effort that went into it were your own, not your family's. They aren't entitled to money from a business that never contributed to. Exactly. If a stranger had bought the business and made it successful, they wouldn't be asking them for a piece of it. It's absurd. Not the a-hole. It's not their business. You purchased the business, renovated it. They don't get to demand a slice of the cake after you made a cake, just because the flour that you bought fair and square was owned by Papa once upon a time. Edit. Don't forget to get your affairs in full order, because your relatives are the type of people to contest any wills and whatnot. There really isn't a leg for anyone to stand on here if the OP purchased and fully repaid his grandfather for the business. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for making my 13-year-old niece return the birthday presents I bought for her because she was giving me attitude? 43 female, I have been very involved in my niece, 13 female, Scarlett's life. I frequently visit my sister and brother-in-law and often have auntie days with Scarlett, her sister, and my own kids. Scarlett is beautiful, creative, and clever girl, but she unfortunately can have an entitled attitude. Her parents are middle class. My sister works part-time while my brother-in-law is a magnet school principal. We explained to Scarlett that she's not going to get everything she wants in life, but we will always make sure she has whatever she needs. Scarlett isn't the only one who gets told no, as this applies to every child in our family. Scarlett still believes that because certain kids at her school have more money than her, she should always get expensive things too. She also has an attitude that because my partner and I make more money, we should buy pricey things for her. My sister and brother-in-law just continue to enforce boundaries and say they are waiting for when Scarlett matures. Scarlett's birthday is in a week. We will be on vacation on the actual day. So 2 days ago, I treated Scarlett to a mall trip. We had a spa day, got lunch, then we're about to head home when Scarlett said she wanted to go to the Apple store. Scarlett showed me one of the MacBook Air laptops and told me she wanted it. I asked if the Chromebook I got for her school was broken. She said it worked, but a girl in her class had a MacBook Air, so she wanted one too. I explained to Scarlett that if she were willing to wait until Christmas, I could try to find one on sale, but I couldn't afford it at the current price. Scarlett began to throw a tantrum because my son has a laptop that's over $2,000. A laptop I got second-hand, in which my son has used for over 8 years. I explained this to her, but Scarlett continued her tantrum, calling me a greedy witch. I firmly told her, "Scarlett, if you do not stop this behavior right now, I will return your other gifts and you will get nothing from me." Scarlett continued to use profanity towards me, so I told her, "That's it." We walked back to all the stores and returned everything. Glittery phone case, jewelry, stuffed animals, everything. The only thing I did not return was a book, but I kept it and told Scarlett I will hold on to it until I feel she has learned to be grateful. Scarlett whined at the car about not getting the things, and I told her, "Scarlett, if you had been grateful, you would have gotten all those things, but you weren't, and now you have nothing from me. Many kids' families can't even afford food. I want you to really think about all the things you have and learn to be grateful." My sister and brother-in-law agreed with my actions, but my brother-in-law's parents say I was cruel to take birthday presents from a child, and they would be rebuying Scarlett the gifts I returned. I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior, and Scarlett will never be content until she learns to be grateful. Am I the a-hole? Okay, I was ready to be mad at you, but after reading this, I'm not. She's 13. You gave her a clear warning, explained the consequence, and gave her time to change her actions. She didn't, so you followed through with the consequence. I'd say that's reasonable. Not the a-hole. Yeah, this is just solid parenting. Or anting, or whatever. Not the a-hole. You gave her a very needed lesson. It's a shame her parents hadn't done it already. Not the a-hole. Sounds like parents are trying. The in-laws buying all the returned stuff points towards the root problem. Yep, so now if she can't get mom/dad/auntie to buy something, she'll just run to grandma and grandpa. Not the a-hole. She called you a greedy witch. If I had ever spoken to any adult like that at her age, I would have probably been grounded for a year. Not sure if she has always used profanity with adults when she is angry, but her behavior needs to be checked before she does it to someone that does not care for her the way you do, like a school teacher or classmate, and gets suspended. You were right to return her birthday gifts, because bad behavior should never be rewarded. Returning them was the consequence of her actions. No joke. If my kid got taken out for their birthday and they pulled a stunt like this kid did, they wouldn't get a birthday celebration, period. It would be a hard, tough lesson to learn, but respect and gratitude is an extremely important thing to learn. It's honestly nuts that a 13-year-old is acting that way. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my sister and her husband in the rain? My girlfriend Emily is a food content creator. She loves what she does and her food is always tasty. If she decided to open a restaurant, she would always be fully booked. She does not do professional catering, but she likes to prepare food for friends and family. A little context. A few weeks ago, my sister Paige wanted to host a dinner party for her friends and family. 8 guests. She asked Emily to help her design an elaborate course menu. Eventually, this turned into Paige hiring Emily for a night to prepare and cook all the meals. Paige paid half of the agreed amount and promised to pay the remaining balance by a certain date. Emily spent days prepping, cooking, cleaning, etc. to make sure the dinner was perfect. She spent the entire day at their house prepping, and she also helped Paige clean the house in preparation for the guests. At first, she says that she was overwhelmed, but nothing she couldn't handle. She was alone working in the kitchen. The guests arrived almost 2 hours earlier than Emily was expecting. And according to Emily, my brother-in-law, sister's husband, started to brag about their new exotic maid that they hired because of this event. He went on mentioning how hard it was to understand their maid because of her accent or how obedient she is. My sister lives in an open-plan style house, so Emily could hear all of these things in the kitchen. Emily was incredibly uncomfortable the entire time, and as soon as she finished, she left. I asked Paige and my brother-in-law to apologize, but they refused. To make it worse, Paige has not paid Emily the rest of her promised money. Every time we call, text, or email, etc., she straight up ignores us. I assume they had blocked us on all social media messages, etc. It's gross, and I am so upset with them. A couple of days ago, Emily posted a new food-related video. It was very good and looked very tasty. About 2 hours later, my sister and her husband are outside my door, in the pouring rain, asking to come in. I was confused, but I assumed that maybe this was their way of apologizing. I did not let them in. I just opened the door a little. I was wrong. Paige mentioned how she saw Emily's post and wanted to come try it for herself. I was stunned. Not only was I disappointed in them for not apologizing or paying Emily, I was shocked by the ridiculousness of their thought process. They would show up for free food like nothing happened, ignoring the fact that Emily doesn't upload her content on the same day she makes it. I asked Paige or my brother-in-law to apologize, and when it was clear that they were making excuses, I said goodbye and shut the door in their face. They sat outside, with no umbrella or a rain jacket, for almost an hour, calling our names and spamming our doorbell. I got a call from my brother-in-law, demanding me to apologize because I got Paige sick. Emily thinks I may have been a bit too petty. Now, for the top comments. Not stay home. This is what I like to call mess around and find out. They were rude the whole way through. You should also take them to small claims courts where they will be forced to pay up the remainder of what's owed, though you may want to go to a legal sub or a lawyer to see what you can do. I'm shocked he answered the door at all. Exotic maid indeed. Exotic maid that he can't even afford to pay. My sister and her husband talk so lowly of someone they can't seem to pay. Not stay home. You didn't leave them in the rain. They chose to stay in the rain to yell at you. They were perfectly able to leave and get out of the rain. They cannot blame you for their choices. As for Emily's payment, it might be necessary to take them to small claims court. That is if she thinks it is worth it. Yeah, exactly. They literally could have just left. What would have happened if I wasn't home? I'd really like to know what their thought process is. An hour in the rain? Well, they could have just left or not show up in the first place. Man, please update us if anything else happens. I wish nothing would happen, but judging by how they've acted so far, other funky things are bound to come up. Watch out for flying monkeys too. Maybe you want to make a preemptive attack prior to the next shenanigans. Not stay home. Your sister and brother-in-law are disgusting people. Personally, I'd 1. Reimburse Emily for the other half as she accepted the job because it was your sister. 2. Treat her to something special as a way to apologize for the treatment she endured. 3. Tell sister and brother-in-law the owed amount is now X dollars. The half they owed plus treat cost plus convenience fee, and that you are going no contact with them until they A. Pay X dollars, B. Apologize to Emily. 4. Tell parents about number 3. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his wife from my house? My wife, 31 female, and I, 30 male, had a baby 4 months ago. My wife has been suffering from PPD, and she's had a lot of breakdowns here and there, and it was just so heartbreaking to see. I decided to give her a day to herself and take care of the baby. So I took a small leave from work, gave her my card, and told her to do what she needs to do for herself. My brother, 35 male, and his wife, 34 female, came over the same day she was out for a visit and asked me where she was. I told them she was out doing her own things, and they asked why I was babysitting the baby. I told them it wasn't babysitting when it's my own child, and I was giving my wife some time to herself. My sister-in-law scoffed at me and told me she should be home like a good mom, and my brother laughed and agreed, saying that taking care of a baby is easy. I got angry at him and told him, of course it'd be easy for you, because you live with mom, so you could just dump the baby on her. He and his wife got angry and started yelling at me, so I kicked them out and told them to never come back unless they apologized. I told my wife about it, and she was sad that I fought with my brother because of her, but I reassured her that I didn't care because she was important. I got a call from my mom saying she agreed with me, but told me I was a bit harsh for what I said to him, and I can't help but feel like an a-hole for that. Am I the a-hole? You weren't the a-hole the moment they said the word babysitting. Not the a-hole. Agreed. Brother is 100% the a-hole. I always find it telling, sad, and funny that the people who consider taking care of your own children to be babysitting so often turn out to be the ones who don't actually parent their own kids. Whether it's a nanny, grandparents, or siblings, they always seem to find a way to dump their kids in someone else, and then have the gall to look down on those who actually spend time with their kids. I was out the other night and someone asked me if my husband was babysitting my 4-year-old. I said, babysitting? You do know he's the dad, right? It was so freaking awkward after that, but I hate these assumptions. Absolutely not Daeho. I hope his wife is being supported as she should. Not Daeho. You didn't fight with your brother because of your wife. You fought with your brother because he's an a-hole. Everything that came out of those people's mouths was appalling. What a-holes? People like that deserve the harsh truth. Otherwise, they remain obliviously and willfully ignorant. OP, please tell your wife that lots of people are wishing her well. I am, at least. She clearly has love and support at home, so I have faith things will get better. You two sound like a good team. Not Daeho. Not Daeho. You literally spoke the truth. I wish my husband was so understanding. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope one day you can understand what you go through. Not going to happen. I got my tubes tied, cut and burned so I won't have any more children. But thank you for being an actual parent when so many refuse to.